We cannot say that we're serving the Lord and still be rejecting other people. Rejecting people based on their race, based on their gender. There are men who will reject women because they don't believe, women should be speaking or mistreat them. And then there's women who reject men for whatever reasons that they do. Perhaps just life experiences, whatever it may be. As I said, race, you say that you're of God, but you don't like a certain race, a certain group of people. This is not godly. It is not godly. It's one thing if you are still a sinner and you're in darkness, because we know that when you're in sin and when you are in darkness, everything is so obscured in the mind and how you view things. I can look back at some of the things I used to say, the things I used to do. If I go back and I see videos of me in the past, I feel so embarrassed because the way I would talk, the things that I would say, but it was so normal to me. Sometimes, as I told you guys in the past, I had like this huge movie collection, and when I go and like, okay, I'm going to watch some of my movies, I suddenly realized upon salvation and really growing in the Lord, because it wasn't something I noticed right away. Once you get closer and closer to God, I began to realize how much profanity was in the shows that I had. I mean, it was like, wow. And so what I'm saying is, at the time, it was just a show to me. The profanity or whatever the content may be just seemed normal. It was not as glaring as how it is where over time God changes your heart. So certain things, learned behaviors based on how you were raised, your culture, and all of that, the more you grow closer to God, there are certain things you just cannot keep doing. So to say I serve God, but I'm rejecting this group of people, or I don't like this race, you still have hatred, you still have a sexist attitude, you still have certain attitude like, a feminist. I thought feminism or feminists were just individuals who are trying to get rights for women, the right to vote, which was from days old, but just the right to be able to move up the ranks in the workplace, things of that nature. But when I was taking a social psychology class and I really saw and studied what feminism was about, it's something different. It is not just about rights for women and making sure women are protected, but it's really about destroying and revising the family dynamics. It even suggests, like, look, you don't need a man. You just get his sperm and just just have a baby. We don't need them. It's a lot more. I mean, you really have to study it. And that was the first time my eyes were opened up on what it is. It's I want to say there's a dark and sinister side to what feminist is. So if you're like me, who you were just thinking, of course women should have equal opportunity to get equal pay if she's doing the same thing or better as a man or just as qualified. No, it is way deeper than that. So with that being said, you can't just be like, well, you're saying you're following the Lord, but you still have feminist attitudes and mindsets. But there is a lot of people that's going to miss God. They're going to miss God. And the reason why they think that they're not going to miss God is because there is this thing going on around there that, hey, once you get saved, nothing you do can keep you out of heaven. And that is what the enemy is using to enable people to just do what they want to do because they feel like there's not going to be any consequences. But there are going to be consequences. The Bible, from the Old all the way to the New Testament, shows us that you can do evil things and do do things that's against what God commands and enter into heaven. So you cannot say, I believe in Jesus, I believe in the Lord, and you're still hating people. You're still being vindictive towards people. That is not godly. There are even individuals, there are Jewish people who have turned their lives over to Jesus, because if you know anything about the Jews, I don't know a whole lot, but what I do know about Jews today, they do not see Jesus as the Messiah. They do not believe he's the Son of God. Rather, he was just this, if you want to say, they saw him as a delinquent who was crazy. They saw him as blasphemous even, and so they plotted to crucify him. They do not believe that he's a risen Savior. They do not believe he's the Messiah. However, there are some who have began to, their heart has changed and they believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And of course, in doing so, some of them will lose their families. They get cut off because that is just considered to be like blasphemy, okay? But even with that said, even those Jews that are turning to Jesus Christ and who are saying, Yeshua is my Messiah, there is an exclusion that's happening. Not with all of them, but the Lord just showed me some things, which is an exclusion. They accept Jesus as the Messiah, but at the same time, many of them, not all of them, let's just put it like this, a select few, let's put it like that, are still rejecting other non-Jews, and they're going, this is our Messiah, this is Yeshua is my Messiah, our Messiah. And while we can personalize it and say this is my God, what is going on is there's still something there to exclude others, which was common among the Jews in the Bible. If you were a Samaritan, if you were of certain origins, you're considered a Gentile. And so that is still going on in some ways, and that is not of God. Then you also have Jews that are saying, hey, if it wasn't for us, there will be no you. If it wasn't for us, you would not be able to have salvation. But that's not true, because while the Jews were yet rejecting Jesus, he went on the cross and died on the cross for all the world. So he gave us the possibility of salvation. My salvation and my path to heaven is not based on a Jewish person. It's not based on anyone, because to say that would negate what Jesus says in John 14. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. Didn't say no one comes to the Father unless you agreed on by the Jewish people or by any people. Because God knows, because Jesus walked this earth and he knows the heart of man. He knows that there are individuals that try to exert authority over others. And he even taught his disciples, don't let this be once named among you. He also extended the gospel to the Gentiles. He did it first to the Jews. The Bible says first to the Jews. Not because, they're more important than you, because God loves all of us. But he was born among the Jews, and so they were the first one to get this message of salvation and of Jesus Christ and serving God. And the Jews did not like a lot of what he was teaching, because he felt that he was going against a lot of their laws, right? Like, okay, someone commits adultery, she should be stoned. You're saying who's without sin? They don't like that type of thing. They're telling people to focus more. Jesus was telling individuals to focus more on God, but the Pharisees and scribes enjoyed the codependency that people had on them. They want to be the ones that they come to, and they seek them first. So with that being said, guys, they did not like what he was talking about, and so they resisted him. And so what he did was, because not all of them, some of the Jews did follow Jesus, but a lot of them did not, because they were in fear of the Pharisees and the and the consequences of it. I mean, it was not uncommon for them to banish people, exile people, punish them, do the different things. I mean, look at what they did to Jesus, right? So the gospel was now being spread to the Gentiles, and the Gentiles, the non-Jews, are the ones that received it. They ran with it, along with others, the other Jews, that the few Jews that did accept that, but it was mostly non-Jews that just embraced the gospel and ran with it. So now we're in a place where, okay, there are Jews that have now they now believe in the Messiah, and they are doing what was done in the days of old now. Some of them, not all, okay? So keep that in mind, which is our Messiah. Our Yeshua is our Messiah, but they're still rejecting other people who are non-Jews. And that is not of God. You know, it tells us in the book of Revelation that at that day, when we stand before God, the throne of God is going to be every tribe and every tongue. And sometimes people will start to say, well, I actually heard a Jewish person who believes in Jesus. He said, if it wasn't for us, if it wasn't for the Jews, there wouldn't be any other. Basically, he's saying if it wasn't for the Jews, there'll be no us, or there'll be no chance for our salvation, like them turning back to the Lord. But guys, we have to remember, if you read Ezekiel chapter 36, you will see from Ezekiel 36, if you read from verse 22 all the way down to 36, you will see that the Lord allowed the Jewish people to be turned back to him for his holiness sake, not because for his holy name's sake. It was not because, and he specifically said it, it is not for you. It is not because you are, not because you're good, not because you're worthy, but for my name's sake will I sanctify you. All right? So if you read that, you're going to be able to keep things in perspective. I'm not saying that we should look down on the Jews at all. Them turning to the Lord, them turning back to God, it is based on God's prophecy for them, but not because, oh, without them, we won't be able to make it in. That is not it. God is never going to place and stipulate and say, if it's not for these people, then, the rest of the world is damned. No, because he sent his son. He died on the cross. He is the way, the truth, and the life, okay? But with that said, guys, that's some of the things that's going on with certain Jews, some that have turned to Jesus Christ. They have turned to Yeshua. They do accept him as the Messiah, but they are still rejecting non-Jews. We cannot say that we have God and then we are still operating on our own prejudice or our own stereotypes of people. And it's something that we have to pray and ask God to remove, because you end up not seeing God, because that person is created in his image and his likeness. And sometimes even people that are not sinners, that are not Christians, and they're sinners and they're doing certain things, it can be very annoying. But make sure with that you pray to God. Even though we are to separate ourselves from certain people, if they are the type, they're not receiving God, they want to debate with you, they want to argue with you, they want to fight with you, of course you have to separate yourself. But we're still in the world. While we're not of it, we're still in it. You're going to work around them. You can't just be like, oh, I don't want to be around these dirty people. I don't want to be near these people, because we used to be dark and we used to be walking in sin. So we have to have compassion. We can't behave as if we have never been lost before, but at the same time, we have to also have discernment to know, okay, I need to separate. We also know, like, you really can't hang comfortably with someone who's not a Christian, because there are things they want to do and conversations they want to have that you yourself are not really going to be able to have unless you are relaxing. You're relaxing a bit. And I'm like, well, yeah, let me, that type of thing, which is compromise. I don't have to compromise myself these individuals are not changing their ways. They're being who they are and expecting you to compromise yourself. They're not saying, hey, let me not smoke in front of this person, while some of them might, or let me watch my language, while some of them might. But there's a lot of people, they're being who they are. They're true to themselves. They stay in their positions. And then believers are going, oh, well, let me back up a little bit. No, that's not what God wants for us. So we just have to be careful that we're not spiteful, that we're not hateful. We cannot say that we are serving the true and living God while we still hate certain people. Now, there are people in your life that who may have hurt you and done things wrong to you. I'm not saying you have to go be BFFs with them. There's some people, they have proven themselves over time to be evil, to have no good intent for you. You can't hang around people like that, and that's understandable. But what matters to God is whether or not you still have seeds of bitterness and unforgiveness in your heart towards them. The Lord knows that some things are harder to forgive than others, and some things are impossible to do in our flesh. But by His power, He can help you. He will help you through the process, because forgiveness is a process. It is not something that as soon as the sun goes down, you need to get over it. There are some people who are not walking in wisdom, and they will literally think that you could have been, your husband cheated on you earlier. You found out your husband or your wife's been cheating, doing something wrong. And if you find out in the morning, by the evening time, you need to forgive the person, forgive him, forgive her. That is insanity. When the sun goes, don't let the sun go down on your anger. It is simply meaning you're not supposed to be holding on to grudges for a long time. But the Lord is understandable. The Lord is understanding of the fact that indiscretion and cheating is a big thing. Someone molesting a person, someone raping, murdering a person, it is not humanly possible that you're going to feel better by the sun goes down. But what the Lord wants you to do, while He understands your hurt and your pain and may give you that time to grieve and to feel what you feel, will you reject Him also? Will you allow the hurt and pain that goes on in your life to cause you to reject Him? Because what happens is people are like, no, I don't want to forgive. No, I don't want to go through any process of forgiveness. I have a right to feel this way. So what they do is they reject the power of God that has the ability to transform their feeling, to change their heart, and to help them to forgive. Forgiveness, as I said, is not always reconciliation, but it cleanses your spirit. But they don't even want that. And so they end up rejecting God. And so a lot of people are saying, I'm serving the Lord, but they still hate somebody. They still have something against a person. And that's not the way of God. Remember, I talked to you about grace, mercy, love, and forgiveness. A lot of times believers are only operating in that without using God's wisdom, knowledge, discretion, understanding, and discernment. And so they get all messed up and stay in these crazy toxic relationships. But the first thing is to be willing to have the Lord to change your heart. There are lots of individuals that are serving the Lord their way. They're serving the Lord on their terms. They're serving the Lord with stipulations and they have conditions to it. And they really feel like they're getting away with that, but they're not. So once again, guys, just to wrap up this video, we have to be mindful of when we say we're serving God, but yet we still don't like certain groups, races. We're still being condescending. We're still being, we act like we're above people. We measure one another and say, well, this is the poor person. You sit in the back. Here's this person who's wealthy. Let's bring them up and put them in the best seats. The Bible talks about that. And so, guys, we just have to be mindful of these things. Ask the Lord to search our hearts. You may feel like you're fine, but you're not. You may think you're doing great, but the Lord will show you what's in your heart and say, okay, we need to work on this. Another thing that's kind of sitting in my spirit right now is those of you may now have been, you turned your life to the Lord, but you come from a very racist family where you come from a group that hates certain races of people. Some of you come from a background of KKK members, people that really hate black people or anybody who's non-whites. And then you may even come from a background where, maybe your family were just certain groups that they hate white people. They hate white people for, things that happen to their cultures and their groups. And now you are here accepting the Lord, but at the same time, you are embracing and still embracing a lot of those racist mindsets. You still have them. So you will find that while you're serving God, you're serving God among your people, like people that look like you or those you consider to be more tolerant. Okay. There are lots of people that's doing that. There are lots of Asians who say that they're of God, that they don't like certain groups of people. They have businesses in which they are mistreating certain people who are not like them or who they deem to be poor. There are also Indians who say that they believe in Jesus, but yet they're still using the caste systems. They will not invite what they will call the untouchables into their ministries, or if they are, they treat them differently. So be careful. I always talk about pastors. If all your staff and your admin team looks just like you, and you're in a mixed church, but yet you don't have, you only have your race, people that look like you or close to you. You deliberately pick certain people for your admin or to work with you that are none of which are the race that you probably have reservations about. Or if you do hire them just for the sake of how it would look, you are still mistreating that person. You still treat them differently than everyone else. God does not like that. So guys, let's allow the Lord to search our hearts, change our hearts, because many are going to stand before the Lord and say, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy? Weren't we serving? Wasn't I on the admin team? Wasn't I faithful in feeding the homeless? Wasn't I faithful in supporting the church? Wasn't I faithful in preaching your message and your gospel? And he's going to say, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. You will find this in Matthew 7. This is the word of Jesus, because God sees the heart. So you can be serving God with your lips, but if in your heart you still hate certain people, you still cannot, you don't like them. And yes, there's some people where in races where there's been a ugly history. And so it's hard to get past certain things. And that's why you have to have the Lord to help you, because you can't do it. There's certain races where, if you look at it from a natural perspective, you're like, yeah, I can understand why you feel that way. But God does not understand that. He does not understand why you think and feel that you can kill or hurt other people. See, sometimes people will measure their sins and they'll say, well, I'm not lynching and I'm not killing anybody, but you lynch and kill in different ways. You may be just refusing a person employment. This person needs to work. You know that they're qualified. They sounded okay, but once you saw them in person, you made up your mind. I'm not going to hire this person. Some of you, you're in businesses, you sell homes, you're in real estate, and you are deliberately denying people or making it very difficult for certain races of people to purchase homes. You may make it difficult for certain races of people to get a loan. You know that they could get a loan, or they may have some difficulties financially, but you know of other ways and other sources that they can use, or another way, or perhaps less that they can get. But because of your own beliefs, because of your own racist prejudice, or whatever the word is that you have towards this group, you will deny them and not tell them about their options. There are lots of people who are in law enforcement. There are a lot of people who are working in forensics that's doing a lot of wicked things because they don't like a specific race or group of people. They know to do the right thing, but they will either abuse their authority or cause somebody to go to prison. Say, yes, I found their DNA and their DNA matched, and it's a lie. About, I want to say 5 or so years ago, they discovered a toxicologist or a forensic scientist who they realized for many years she has falsely gave false reports and had a whole lot of what you would consider to be minority men or women to be taken to prison because she sat there and could see that they're innocent, but doctored everything up to put these people in jail, to put these people in prison because she had the power to do so. Now, I personally don't know why one person will be given that amount of power. It's under my impression that there would be, hey, these findings, but somebody else will come and take a look at it, and maybe a third set of eyes before they say, yeah, this is our final report. And perhaps there was, but just something happened. But somehow she was able to do this. Okay. And a lot of people went to jail. She was of Indian descent. Okay. And yeah, that's what she did. So you may not be shooting someone, you may not be hanging a person, but there are people who do a lot of things like that, do a lot of wicked and evil things. You report your neighbors because you don't like them. You report them, just for little things that you would tolerate if it was, white children or whatever race playing over here. If you are in agreement with that race, then it's fine. But if, let's say, some Spanish children or black, they were doing the same thing, you're going to report them. God pays attention to those things. We have to realize that we can't go through our lives being deliberate. You don't want to hear one sound from your neighbor, and so you're constantly reporting them because you just don't like them. And sometimes you may be that neighbor from hell. You are the Karen, as they say, not you are being a Karen, not Karen, because I know there's some people named Karen that's like, no, they said a Karen. So you go through your neighborhood being a certain way, and you're going to church, and you're in ministry. You could be that horrible person at your job. You can be that horrible boss. We can't say we're of God and we're doing things like that. You are a supervisor, but you are a supervisor from hell. You overwork your staff. You're rude. You abuse your power at work. You disrespect your staff. You don't pay them on time. You dock their pay for every little thing. You target certain people. You give that single mother, that single father a hard time. I always, for some reason, I see this take a long time to pay people because there's some people, they don't have EFT, electronic fund, financial fund transfer. I can't remember what the F stands for. So it doesn't go directly to the bank. And some of them, you're still not paying people properly. Some people that you realize because they are poor, they don't have a lot of things. And so you're cheating them. You overwork them and you're paying them peanuts. You're paying them less than they should be paid. And you can threaten them because of perhaps certain situations and circumstances in their lives. This man or woman needs to catch a bus or somebody's picking them up, and you will let them sit and wait. Instead of just having their check ready, instead of having what they need ready, you're going to let them wait. They're already clocked out because you're not going to pay them overtime. You're going to have them clock out, and they have to sit there and wait for you to get around to paying them. God sees that. God sees those things. The way people are running their businesses, overworking people, selling faulty products. We can't say that we're of God and we're doing things like that. And I'm going to stop here because I sense the Lord may want me to do something different in another video. But we can't say that we're of God, and yet we still have certain beliefs and dislike to other people. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life.